Mayo Experience mini version for UFC 218. DraftKings Picks and Preview. We're going to get some high-end guys, we're going to get some low-end guys, but if you want the full fight-by-fight breakdown for UFC 218, plus the tough finale, subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience audio versions on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Google Play, on Audio Boom for the complete Dog or Pass podcast, hosted by Paul Shaughnessy and Fight Network's Cody Saftic.
Back to pay-per-views, Pat. So you know what? Let's make some money, because you're going to have to use that money to buy the pay-per-view. In fact, that'd be cash game plays. Let's go for a big GPP here. Pay for the rest of the pay-per-views the rest of the year.
And next year.
And next year. I'm feeling it.
All right, who we got at the top?
Okay, well, starting at the top, we're going to take Max Holloway. I think this is a given in the fact that it's a rematch with Jose Aldo. Last time around, he scored over 100 points, scored them well. He's the kind of guy that in a 5-round fight, he's only going to get better and better. You look at the fight with Pettis, you look at the last fight with Aldo. The Pettis fight, it's not like he faces any early scrutiny or anything. It's just the longer the fight goes, that's when you really start to see the difference between him and the competitor. His punch output is on point. The last fight with Aldo, he broke Aldo down. Aldo had a good first round, but outside of that, he just beats him bad. And in fact, a lot of people can make the argument that that first Aldo fight could have been stopped way earlier. Now we've got Jose Aldo, who's essentially coming in on short notice, taking on a man who I don't think he believes he can beat. And I got to roll with Max Holloway. I know it's pricey at $9,300, but we've seen this fight already. And we've seen what he can do.
You got to spend your money somewhere.
You got to spend your money. This is also the type of card that there's a lot of good options here, but Max Holloway seems like a safe option. If you're playing a cash game, you can still afford him. If you're playing a GPP, he's got a high upside. I feel like because of his punch output and the fact that he's got 5 rounds to deal with, he's got a very high ceiling, high basement, and a high ceiling. So I'm liking it.
Francis Ngannou is also over $9,000. Comes in at $9,100. Yeah. Alistair Overeem on the other side. These heavyweight fights, they can be tough, man. They can swing the other way. So would you play Ngannou in cash? Yes or no?
Yeah.
You just think he's going to win?
I think he's going to win. I think most people believe he's going to win. The price tag certainly suggests that at $9,100, he should get the victory. If you look at the fact that he averages 93.8 points, and that's spread out over, a number of UFC performances now. There was a time where we'd think, you know what, this guy's very raw, but he gets the first round knockout. Well, this guy's developing, and he gets the first round knockout. Well, now he's taking on a savvy veteran, and he gets the first round knockout. This is not a foolproof play. I do believe that there is some merit to a guy like Alistair Overeem. If you're taking a punt, then you can take Alistair Overeem.
Yeah, but
there is path to victory for Alistair Overeem.
Is it one of those
things? Ngannou probably knocks him out.
But is it one of these things where, like, if you play, I assume that Ngannou is going to be one of the highest owned players this week, just based.
Yeah, everybody loves him.
Everyone loves him. He scores a bunch of points, gets quick finishes. But if you were to play, let's say 10 teams, would it be worth making 2 Overeem teams?
Yeah, you could definitely play 2 Overeem teams. You're going to save a whole lot of money if you're going to play Overeem. He's not above getting the victory here. I mean, Alistair Overeem is a K1 level champion level striker, and I believe that he could go out there and he could show Francis Ngannou a couple things. As far as the ground game goes, I would have to give the advantage to Alistair Overeem. As far as training goes, well, he's been training for a lot longer and at a higher level for a longer period of time. Now, Francis Ngannou is in Las Vegas now, full-time. He has been training with a better level of competition, and he's certainly developing. He's still a young heavyweight, and I think he's getting better. Do I see some merit in Alistair Overeem? Absolutely. But that being said, Francis Ngannou could change his name to McNulty because he gets results, Pat.
Who else are we going with then?
We're going to go with Justin Gaethje. I mean, $8,700, I think this is a steal. Look how much this guy averages. Now, mind you, he's fought in the UFC one time, but 122 points for victory over Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson, as far as I'm concerned, is as good, if not better, than Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez is a tough warhorse. He's been around the game for a long time. He's fought everywhere. Former Bellator champ, former UFC champ. No idea how they accomplished that, but right place, right time, just like Michael Bisping, and next thing you know, Eddie Alvarez is a UFC champion. The guy fought in Japan. He's been all over. The thing is he's known for getting to these wars, and we've been talking about it for a long time. These wars have just taken their toll on him. Now, mind you, he's so savvy, and he's such a veteran at this point, that he also finds ways to victory. But his victories, I think the best wins of his career are behind him. Justin Gaethje, meanwhile, the way this guy fights, Pat, does not lead to career longevity. However, I don't really care about longevity. He's like 27 years old. I care about what he's going to do right now. And the fact is that he's just going to go right out at Eddie Alvarez. And that's the way to beat Eddie Alvarez. If you can lure him into a firefight, then you have equal chance to hit him and knock him out. As far as Eddie Alvarez landing something on Justin Gaethje, I've seen Justin Gaethje get wobbled. I've seen him get dropped. I ain't never seen him get knocked out. He is undefeated for a reason. The guy can take it. When he's 30 years old, he probably won't remember his own name. But he's not 30 years old. And I really think that this is a great stylistical matchup for him. If you're Eddie Alvarez in the UFC, you come off this fight with Dustin Poirier. The logical thing to do would be to rebook the fight. It's a no contest. It was a really fun fight. Let's book that. But they were like, you know what? we're trying to push Justin Gaethje. We think this guy's got all the makings to be a star. So let's give him his own season of The Ultimate Fighter, and let's give him a tailor-made opponent. Well, who are we going to give him? Let's give him Eddie Alvarez. The guy's a former champion. He has a name. He has a super fun style. It's going to lead to a great fight with Justin Gaethje, and a fight that Gaethje probably goes over with the crowd and looks phenomenal doing so. $8,700, that's just because the way this guy fights, he's just jumping right into the fire. But so far, so good. He's able to handle the fire. So I think Gaethje gets the job done, and $8,700, I'm willing to play that.
All right, so we have $8,700 and above for our first 3 players. Who are the savings?
We're going to have to start saving some money. And so whereas I think Holloway gets the finish, and I think Ngannou gets a first or second round knock, but I mean,
yeah, you don't know
what I mean. Yeah, Justin Gaethje, I definitely feel like he's going to get the knockout. Felice Herrig over Courtney Casey, I don't feel like she's going to get the finish here. What I do think she's going to be able to do is go out there, dictate the pace, score some takedowns, and win this fight.
Well, she scores enough takedowns, even with a decision win, she could still score 100 points.
Yeah, and I'm notorious for telling the people that Felice Herrig is awful. So, I mean, I'm going to have to explain myself why I'm suddenly picking her. But first and foremost, I mean, if we're talking about averages and what some of these fighters are averaging, 78.5 points for Felice Herrig. Now, Felice Herrig's someone I've watched for a very long time. And even though I didn't think she was super skilled, she always sticks around. She always improves. She comes from a kickboxing base, but when you see her recently, her wrestling's improved. She's always been with Jeff Curran at Curran BJJ, so her grappling has certainly improved. She's on this season of The Ultimate Fighter, and yeah, not a great performance, but she gets to the UFC, and she survives. Now you start giving her fighters that probably she should lose to. She's coming in as an underdog, and she's performing. She's performing well. One thing I took away when I met her and Carla Esparza at the same time. Neither of them had a fight coming up. Carla Esparza was in terrible shape. Felice Herrig was in mint condition, man. She's always training. She's always improving, and she always stays in great shape. The thing with Courtney Casey is that, well, she has a tendency to kind of fade out the longer fights go. Now, she's going to be bigger than Felice Herrig, but I think in doing that, she's going to be a little slower than Felice Herrig, and she's going to tire a little sooner than Felice Herrig. Herrig got a great gas tank. And then above all that, if you look at Casey's last fight against Jessica Aguilar, honestly, yeah, she got the win, and she deserves the win, no doubt about it. But Jessica Aguilar fought the worst game plan in the history of game plans. Felice is not going to do that because she's not super skilled, so she has to come in and fight a great fight. And lastly, if people are going to say, "Kate, Courtney Casey is stronger, she might overpower her." I've thought that Felice's last couple fights, but she finds a way to win. Her cardio's on point. She'll get the takedown. Once she does get the takedown, she's got a great knack for taking the back and just working her opponent. This is a dangerous fight, but for $8,300, Felice Herrig goes out, gets me the win, gets me my takedowns, gets some ground and pound. She gets really emotional in there, but she's not emotional like Oliver McCall. I'm just going to start crying mid-fight. Emotional like, oh my God, UFC doesn't want to promote me. I'm not pretty enough for them, which is super pretty. I don't know why she always says that. And then she just starts thumping away. Great for ground and pound. Great for significant strikes. I think she gets the win. $8,300. Got to start saving some money. I'm going to take Felice Herrig.
Yeah, well, we need to save some more money, so give me 2 scrubs.
Okay, well, I said we're playing a GPP, and Charles Oliveira is the definition of a GPP play. Flip a coin. Heads, this guy's on. Tails, he's not on. But if he's on, Pat, he can hang with absolutely anybody. I'm not going to say a overachiever or underachiever. When we really think Charles Oliveira is going to do good, he does awful. When we think Charles Oliveira is finally going to get exposed, he does phenomenal. But in this spot against Paul Felder, stylistical matchup, baby. Styles make fights, Pat, and I think this is a great style for him. Paul Felder is a striker-first kind of guy. If you look at Paul Felder's last 2 fights, takes on Stevie Ray and Toronto's Alex Ricci. Both guys are pretty much just strikers. That plays into Felder's hand. Felder has better success with strikers. The Darren Cruikshank fight, he's down 2 rounds, and finally he's able to take down the striker and get the submission. But Paul Felder, you can exploit this guy a little bit. Now, the other 2 things that I don't really like about Paul Felder is, first of all, he's starting to become more of a UFC commentator now. Not more of a commentator, but they've given him a chance to commentate.
He's doing the Cormier?
And he's running with it. Yeah, and you know, Cormier wins too, don't get me wrong. But Paul Felder is a great commentator. And I think part of him is now realizing, okay, I'm a good commentator, I'm a good fighter. You know, where's life after fighting take me? I've been in some wars, I've been in the UFC for a couple years now. I've done everything I kind of want to do outside of challenge for a title or win a title. Don't think he's at that level, don't think he's going to get at that level. So he's kind of in that mid-pack range. With Charles Oliveira, he's had trouble making 45, he's had trouble making 55. He's probably better at 55 because he doesn't have this hellacious weight cut, but he's really good on the ground. Honestly, these $7,700, and it's a similar situation to a guy like Justin Gaethje. If he's on, he's really on. In Gaethje's case, he's undefeated. We haven't seen him off. In Charles Oliveira's case, we've seen this guy off a number of times. But when he's on, he can catch anybody. Felder had a very interesting quote the other day. He said, it's been really fun training for Charles Oliveira because he's a Muay Thai style striker, a Muay Thai stylist. And it's been really fun to train that kind of style in preparations for a striker like that. Charles Oliveira's not going to try to strike with you. What are you talking about? He'll strike long enough to get your ass on the ground, and when he gets you on the ground, that's when he does his best work. He's such an opportunistic grappler that I think at some point in transition, he locks up that submission. As long as, Charlie O don't quit on himself, which he's been known for doing, I think he gets this victory. And beyond all that, at 55, he'll have a better weight cut. He should have a better chance of having a little bit of extra gas in the tank and proceeding to get the victory, throw it all 3 rounds, if he doesn't just flat out catch Paul Felder. So a little bit of risk, but $7,700, I think there's a great potential for a payoff. And I said right at the top of this show, Pat, we're going for the GPP. So let's take that risk, and let's take Charles Oliveira.
All right, I want one person who's cheaper. One more.
Okay, well, I'm going to be honest with you. At this point, we only have enough money to fit in to leave 2 people, right? I decided to go with Jeremy Kimball. The other option is Jose Aldo. Now, if you take Jose Aldo and you're already taking Max Holloway, it'd have to be a cash game. Because in a cash game, if you look at the last fight, Jose Aldo, in my opinion, gets beat up pretty bad, but he still scored about 28 points. So this fight around, maybe if he doesn't get beat up as bad or as quick, he still could score 30, 40 points.
But in a GPP, that makes no sense.
Makes no sense in a GPP. So now we got Jeremy Kimball. Is Jeremy Kimball a lock? No, sir, he's not. $7,100. Is that mostly the reason I'm taking him? Yes. However, he does have a path to victory here. Dominic Reyes is a former collegiate football player. He started training in 2013. Jeremy Kimball is 26 years old now, but he's been training since he's 8 years old. He's currently at the MMA lab. He's a very well-rounded fighter. He generally looks like he's out of shape, and I'm not going to lie. He doesn't look like the most aesthetically pleasing fighter out there, but he gets results. He goes out there, and whether he takes you to the ground, whether he keeps it standing. His last fight, we saw him get the knockout in, a minute and a half. Prior to that, he got knocked out in a minute and a half. But all the same, he's one of those hot and cold fighters. Being at the MMA lab, I got friends there, I've talked to them, and they're like, listen, this guy's not very athletic. And the guy he's fighting is very athletic. The guy he's fighting is very big. These are all things that are going to make you worry. But Kimball's going to be low owned, he's obviously very cheap, and there is a path for him.
Give me a percentage chance he wins. 10 or higher?
No, I mean, he's fighting a guy that's 7-0, who's largely fought nobody. Yeah, he debuted in the UFC. He beat Joaquin Christensen. You know where Joaquin Christensen's right now? He just fought on the regional scene in Europe, and he lost there too. He's just not at that level. He's 39 years old. Meanwhile, you're getting Jeremy Kimball, and here's the thing with Kimball. If you could look at past performances, you can say, he's not that athletic. He's not that all-time. He's 26 years old, Pat. So you know what that tells me? He's getting better every day. Now, I'm not going to lie. Reyes, Reyes is getting better every day too. But you got one guy that's kind of coming from that football background. He's just a natural, raw athlete. He's going to be good. He'll continue to get better. But could he get exposed by a guy who's had more experience early on in his career? Yeah, you don't stay undefeated forever. Someone eventually is going to catch him, whether they catch him standing because we haven't really seen him get rocked, whether they catch him on the ground because we've never really seen him. He says, I was the second place finisher at the 2015 IBJJF World Championships at Blue Belt. Yeah, okay, so you're a blue belt, and you finished second. So can somebody catch you? Absolutely. Is Kimball that guy? Well, that remains to be seen. However, he fits on my team. He's the kind of guy that you're going for GPP or bust. This is a GPP lineup. Let's do it.
All right, Cody Saftic. Check him out on Twitter, @CJ Saftic, and on the Fight Network. But more importantly, on the Dogger Pass podcast with Paul Shaughnessy on the Pat Mayo Experience, iTunes, Stitcher, Audio Boom, Google Play feed, all of them. You excited for this one? Do you like the tough card?
You know what? I like the tough card because I'm probably one of,
three people who watches it now?
I was going to say a handful, but yeah, sure, 3 that physically has invested any type of, time of their life into watching the season. So I want to see it. And beyond that, you know me, UFC Friday, UFC Saturday, oh baby, made my weekend. So I'm liking it. Obviously, love to break down the entirety of the card with Paul. So yeah, looking forward to this one.
Yeah, so again, the fight-by-fight breakdown for both cards up on the Pat Mayo Experience iTunes feed, Stitcher feed, and Google Play feed, the Dog or Pass podcast. You're gonna want to check that out. That should be up on Wednesday night. I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. These were the quick picks. Win some bucks this week, all right? I'll see you next time.